Welcome back. This is section 2 of unit 5. We just finished up talking a little bit about different types of cells in the body and then some terms with chromosomes, autosomes, sex chromosomes. In this unit, we're really going to be talking about those sex chromosomes. I mentioned it last time about this process called meiosis. Now, don't get this confused with mitosis. Mitosis is what unit 4 was about, and how mitosis is how cells divide and make identical copies of themselves. So that helps us grow and mature. It also helps us repair, cells that have been lost by naturally, means or through injury. This process is called meiosis, okay? And this is how we get those haploid cells called gametes. Remember, gametes are sex cells. So this is how we get these sex cells that are going to combine together through fertilization and cause offspring, cause unique newborns or children. So think about yourself. Think about your biological mother and father. So I know some of us have step parents and different things like that. Some of us have adopted parents and all that good stuff. But when it comes to this stuff, I really want you to think about your biological parents, your biological mom and biological dad. You received chromosomes from each of them, okay? And it made you the unique individual that you are today. Yeah, you may look a little bit like your mom, or people may say you're the spitting image of your daddy, and things like that. But you are unique, okay? Your DNA is very unique from theirs. You may share some common characteristics, but it is unique. And this process of meiosis is what helped you become as unique as you are, okay? So let's just think about that. This is how we're going to make those gametes or sex cells. All right, and then we'll use this information later on to see how it makes us unique and how we can make some observations with that. So meiosis produces 4 haploid cells from one diploid cell or diploid cell. All right, so a germ cell, which we talked about that, somatic cells and germ cells. You have one germ cell, and it's going to turn into 4 haploid cells, 4 cells that have half the number of chromosomes as that species. It's for humans 46. This process involves 2 rounds of cell division, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. The good news is both of these follow the PMAT format. So prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase. If you remember that from mitosis, this is going to be very, quick for you to pick up. So homologous chromosomes and sister chromatids. There is a very big difference. If you haven't gotten it by now, I want to just clarify. We need to distinguish between the two. Homologous chromosomes are 2 separate chromosomes. All right, so we have 23 pairs of chromosomes, 46 total. This is 1, this is 2. They are a pair, however. You get them from one from mom, one from dad. They're very similar to each other. They're oftentimes the same length, and they do carry the same genes. And so, say on this one's got the gene for hair texture. Okay, you would have a hair texture gene or a segment of this DNA here from mom, in the same place, one from dad. Now, only one of these is going to show up, and we're going to see that later on in this unit after Thanksgiving, how that works. But as for now, this is called a homologous pair of chromosomes. Okay, they're very similar, one from mom, one from dad. Each half of a chromosome is called a chromatid. Together, this would be 2 sister chromatids. So one side here and one side here. These are sister chromatids. Okay, we're going to see that homologous pairs, these 2, are separated in meiosis 1, that first phase, okay? In this individual chromosome, if you will, it has 2 chromatids held together by the centromere. These are going to be separated in meiosis 2, all right? So we're going to go from having 2 homologous pairs and then down to just 1 chromosome that's composed of 2 sister chromatids, and then the sister chromatids are going to get split up, okay? All right, let's walk through this. This chart is super important. I want you to, if you need to pause it, just stare at it for a while and look at it. And think about it. I'm going to talk you through it, but it's worth your time to read. Meiosis 1 occurs after DNA has been replicated. Okay, so similar how we learned with the cell cycle during interphase, DNA synthesis, we get 2 identical copies of DNA. All right, this is going to divide homologous chromosomes into 4 phases. All right, so phase 1, prophase 1. All right, you need to make sure you clarify 1 or 2 in meiosis. Mitosis is just one, PMAT. 1 series of phases. In meiosis, there's 2 series of phases. Prophase 1, nuclear membrane breaks down. We see the 2, all the chromosomes starting to break free. All right, and everything's getting ready to line them up. Metaphase 1 here, we see them lined across the middle. But notice that these homologous chromosomes are lined up together. Each side of the equator, or the middle part of it, has chromosomes from both parents. Now, I want you to think about this. This is going to help you out in a little bit to show how unique offspring can be. Let's just say this is the one from mom and this is one from dad. This side, this could be the one from mom and this could be the one from dad. Okay, there is no it doesn't line up according to which one you got from your parents. Okay, they just line up with a homologous pair. But you're going to start seeing there's going to be very unique things. This is the beginning of why you may look very different from your biological sister or brother. Okay, because there's lots of combinations that can come from this. Metaphase 1, everything lines up. Just as you probably suspected, anaphase 1, they split apart. They're moving apart from each other to different sides of the cell now. All right, so these two homologous pairs is now separated. Telophase 1, this would actually be it's still furrowed in here. This is showing telophase 1 and cytokinesis. We see nuclear membranes start to come back, and now we've got one cell turned into two cells. All right, this is different from mitosis. So these two cells are not the exact same as the original. All right, they're not the exact same. They have these differing homologous pairs separated. All right, so 1 to 2. Meiosis 2 is the second phase, and you see it's prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, but it has a 2 behind it. Look, we start out with 2 cells. All right, we've got 2 cells here. This is where we're going to divide the sister chromatids. In other words, we're splitting this green guy in half. We're splitting this one in half. We're splitting this one in half, this one in half, instead of the pairing. Okay, same thing, prophase 2, nuclear membrane starts to break down, centrioles go to either side, and they start to pull everything to either side. They pull them up in the middle, everything gets lined up, much like we saw in metaphase of mitosis and metaphase 1 of meiosis. Okay, everything lines up. Anaphase, you guessed it, they pulled apart. Okay, so it's separating the sister chromatids at this point. Now look what happens in telophase 2, and this also shows cytokinesis. We have these 4 haploid cells, because meaning they got half the DNA that this organism, say humans for example, needs. This is not what you would qualify as a human cell, I guess you could think of. It's not a purely unique human. If this cell went through mitosis on its own, which it can't, it wouldn't be human. That's just the thing. This is no good on its own. All right. This is made to connect, to fuse together to fertilization with another fertilization with another haploid cells to get us back to having 40C chromosomes. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Meiosis 2 is what we get 4 unique cells. Now these 4 cells all have differing genes. They are not the same. Okay, they're going to be a little different from each other. Let's stop for a minute before we get into that uniqueness and think about the ways that mitosis and meiosis differ from one another. Because a lot of people get them confused and try to use them interchangeably. They're not even close to the same thing. All right, meiosis has 2 cell divisions, while mitosis, did I say that right? Meiosis has 2 cell divisions, while mitosis only has 1. Mitosis, it doesn't matter about homologous pairs. Those chromosomes never pair up. They're just going to make an identical copy of themselves anyway. So no reason to even think about splitting apart. Meiosis results in 4 haploid cells. Mitosis results in 2 diploid cells. All right, and they are the exact identical copy as the mother cell, the original cell. All right, and it tells us there, produces genetically identical cells. Diploid takes place all throughout the organism's lifetime. So if something's injured or something needs to grow while you're not the same size you were as a baby, and this is involved in asexual reproduction. We're just not going to focus on too much about this. Meiosis produces genetically unique cells. There's 4 of them. They're all haploid. And it only takes place during certain times in the organism's life cycle. Think about a female. All right, a female is only going to produce these haploid cells, these 4 unique, which are going to become egg cells from the time of puberty, which is around early teenage years, until what's called menopause, and this is later middle life, somewhere around late 40s. Okay, at that point, meiosis is not going to occur anymore. And we'll talk more about that in anatomy in 2 years. But meiosis only takes place during certain times. Mitosis, on the other hand, a female could be 90 years old And this is the way that, if she cut her arm, how it's going to repair itself. All right, so that's some worth noting type differences. All right, these haploid cells that come from meiosis are going to develop into mature gametes. Remember, gametes are sex cells. All right, so we're talking about sperm for males, eggs for females. There's a process called gametogenesis. Gametogenesis. Sounds like a video game system, don't it? Gametogenesis is how we produce these mature gametes. You can see here's meiosis 1. This is in males. We see prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase. Meiosis 2 comes about. It's kind of shortened here. They go apart, and then we've got these haploid cells. Eventually, they're going to grow very quickly, actually. They're going to grow these flagella or these tails, and they're going to become these sperm. Okay, and you're going to have 4 of them that originated from a germ cell. Down here, without getting into proper names, female, same process. Going through meiosis 1, meiosis 2, and then you're going to actually get a egg cell. So this is the sex cell or the gamete of females, and then these 3 things called polar bodies. Okay, these polar bodies are going to be broken down. The next slide tells us that. It's going to be broken down, and we're only actually going to get 1 egg cell. This is kind of unique in the fact that from meiosis and gametogenesis, we get 4 from each germ cell. When it comes to a male, we get 4 gametes. In a female, we have 1 germ cell. We actually wind up with only 1 egg cell. And this slide tells us that there's the difference. Males produce 4 equal sperm cells. That doesn't mean they're the exact same. In fact, there's lots of different genes in each one. And this could be why, you look different from your brother or sister, biological brother and sister. Females are going to produce the 1 large egg and then the smaller polar bodies that are eventually broken down. They actually are broken down to help nourish that egg. Okay? And so think about it, jumping back real quick. All 4 of these are unique. They're unique in their DNA, in their genetic material they have. Only 1 of them is actually going to come out of it. These other 3 are broken down. This is going to be a very unique haploid cell. All right, so if you need that one, write it down real quick. We'll skip this slide. We might go over it in class. All right, let's talk real quick. I got like 3 minutes about genetic variation, because this process, meiosis, enables us to have offspring that are very unique. Okay, and they're very unique to each other. If you've ever had a dog have a litter of puppies or a bunch of kittens, you will see, man, there's some that they're born basically the same time. They look kind of the same, but these look really, really different. One may be big, one may be small. They have different colored coats and all these different things. It's because of genetic variation. Sexual reproduction, in other words, reproduction or fertilization with 2 sexual partners, male and female, creates unique sexual combinations of genes. All right, this is called the independent assortment of chromosomes. Through this meiosis process, we get all this variation. Okay, it's not as easily predictable as we would think it may be, because it causes some randomness how gametes are going to fertilize. What if one of those sperm is the one that fertilized the egg? What if it would have been one of them other sperm? And in reality, there is thousands, if not millions, of germ cells making thousands and actually millions of sperm, individual sperm, at the same time, and only one of them is going to, fertilize an egg. So think about, how do we get all these parts? Just throwing some numbers at you. Some of y'all really like numbers. 2 to the 23rd power. This means 2 with like 23 zeros after it. Possible sperm or egg cells produced from 1 series of meiosis. Okay? If we were to take mom and dad here, that's 2 to the 23rd power times 2 to the 23rd power. It gives us about 70 trillion different combinations of chromosomes. 70 trillion different combinations of chromosomes. So this is why we have such uniqueness. Now, we're going to look at, after Thanksgiving, how some things are predictable if we know the traits of the biological mother and father, is what we can actually predict. They have a 75% chance of having brown hair or whatever, okay? But there's still this variation. And that's because of the complex process of meiosis. There's even things called crossing over that we didn't really get to talk about that happened during meiosis. And then really, we see through gametogenesis, only some of them are going to turn into egg or sperm. Okay, so we'll talk about it in class. If you have any questions, you're always welcome to ask me. Use these to fill in your notes.